monsters, madness, and magic.
Alright, folks, welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here with a quick word before we dive in. Now, in this episode, I chat with filmmaker Adam Marcus about the true story behind My Boyfriend's Back, the trials and tribulations of directing Val Kilmer in Conspiracy, Stephen Williams' set stories from Jason Goes to Hell, Adam's take on Freddy vs. Jason, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there. And without further ado, here you go. All right, Adam, why don't you just take us back in time? You're a youngster. Would you consider yourself a book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all of the above?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm definitely all of the above.
That's my favorite answer.
Oh yeah, no, I am definitely that. Yeah, like in every way possible. That is, yeah, that's a great question. Wow. Yeah.
Well, let's start with troublemaking then. What kind of trouble are we talking about?
You know what? Okay, so there's two types. In my personality range, there's two types of people. There's the class clown, and then there's the class comedian. The class clown is the idiot who does stuff, right? Who acts the fool. The class comedian is the one who gets everybody else to be class clowns.
Yes, I agree.
I was definitely a class comedian. So my there was an event when I was a teenager. I had a hamster. And my mother would not allow pets in the house. Like, this was allowed because it was sort of an encased thing, so she would allow that. Also, she had murdered a little field mouse that had become a pet of mine up in our attic, in our little television room up there. And my mom set traps after I told her that I had this mouse that I loved, and she killed it. So that'll tell you a lot about my personality moving forward. So I had this hamster. And my mother constantly recounts this story of a day I got 6 people to come over and clean the hamster cage. I never cleaned it. So I was definitely that guy. Yeah. No, and I was a bit, oh God, the number of like elaborate, crazy pranks I was involved in high school. I ran the theater department from a student level, but I had an office. I had a huge office in my high school. I had a bigger office than any of the teachers had. And so our theater was a 1,400 seat theater. It was a legitimate, legit theater. And in fact, the high school had been built around the theater. So in the catwalks of the theater, which were, one of my domains, all of the lines that went to the PA system for the entire school were run through up in that area in the catwalks because of the ceiling that was, 70 feet above the audience. And so, so we tapped into those lines and got our own microphone and our own switch box. And all during my senior year, we would do fake announcements that would come in the middle of classes, that would include things like, Eddie Wilder, keep your eyes on your own paper. So literally, like, there was like, all seniors are excused from classes for the rest of the day. Thank you. This kind of stuff. And people would literally start getting up to go. One of my favorite things in the world was this, one of the deans of the school, Mr. Cloutier, who was a lovely guy. I saw him climb up the ladder. I could get into the catwalks through my office, which is why that office was so amazing. But Mr. Cloutier walked up this like very kind of scary, set of ladders to get up into the catwalks. And he had those like short sleeve white shirts, like the white press shirts that are short sleeve. And he came down with the junction box that we had cut into the system with. and like he was covered in soot and all this stuff because he had to like root around in there, but he did get it down there. Of course, we replaced it in a different area only a few weeks later. But but that was one of my favorite moments, was just watching this very straight laced dude, have to go up into our filthy catwalks and take that thing down, find it and take it down. So yeah. He was onto us. He was onto us, but we switched out very quickly so we could keep doing it. So yeah, we did a lot of that kind of shit like that. So there's the troublemaker part of me. By the way, I never did anything like I wasn't a troublemaker in the way that I would ever get anybody hurt or do something that was, destructive in some way. Like that's not me at all.
Just the fun stuff.
Yeah, just like being a wise ass, setting up. Do you guys know? Do you know what tag is? The game Tag?
Yeah.
The assassination game?
Oh, no. I never got assassinated during tag.
So we had this game called Tag, the assassination game, and you would get a dossier on other students. And all of us went around with these little dart guns with the suction cup darts. And I set up this game that was literally, it was like 60 of us playing at one point through my high school. And I remember getting brought into the dean's office, my dean, who by the way, I'm still friends with to this day. My high school dean, Dean Califf, we are friends. Like we message each other on Facebook Messenger. I mean, it's hilarious. Dean Califf, he was a great guy. And he brought me into his office. He's like, Adam, are you playing some sort of assassination game in campus? And I was like, what? No. What would that be about? I said, I mean, we have a game of tag that goes on every once in a while, but it's like innocent tag, Oh, I heard it was some sort of assassination thing. I'm like, no. Just tag. So there was a lot of that. So that's kind of the troublemaker part of me. Yeah.
It's always the theater kids.
Oh hell! Oh fuck yeah! And by the way, my senior year was the first year that. By the way, so the school I went to is a place called Staples High School in Westport, Connecticut. Which, by the way, Ryan Reynolds literally just visited 2 days ago at my high school to watch a rehearsal of their version of, I think it was Les Mis. They're doing Les Mis. And he sat in on the rehearsal.
Wow.
So, yeah, no, dude, I literally lived down the road from Paul Newman. I used to sing at Martha Stewart's house for Christmas. It was that kind of place. So our theater company paid for the football team.
Oh shit! It's opposite around here.
Well, but here's the funny thing. There was this antiquated thing, and again, this is in the mid to late '80s. There was this antiquated thing where the only people who got Letterman jackets were sportos, and I was like, "Well, that's fucking stupid. Like, why are they getting letters but we're not, and we're funding everything? How's that work?"
Yeah. And
so my year was the first year we got Letterman jackets for the theater department. The football players were none too pleased. And I was like, suck it. Like, I'm sorry. If you guys want to continue playing in uniforms and have a ball, you better kiss our asses because we're the ones paying for your damn team. Unbelievable.
The coolest theater class of all time.
Oh, dude, I will say this. The last 2 years I was at that school, and look, I ended up teaching at that school once I went to college. I was teaching in the summers, and I was running a theater program through that school. That was my own company. But I will say, I mean, in my last 2 years at that high school, my junior and senior year, I was big into strength training and to all kinds of weightlifting and all that stuff, right? And so the head coach for the football team, great guy, he asked me if I would be on the team. And because I was a track kid and I did all this weight training, and I was like, no, man, I don't have time. I don't have time for that. And I'm not going to get injured and miss out on the work that I really care about. And this guy, this coach, he was so awesome. he took an aerobics class that was given by one of the other gym teachers, and that gym teacher was pregnant when she gave this class, which was amazing. And so I was in that class, and the only reason I took that as one of my gym requirements was because it was me and like 16 girls in like, spandex. And I was like, yeah. And guys would be like, oh, what are you, gay? I'm like, no, I'm the opposite of that. I said, I'm not wrestling with you guys and like rolling around with a bunch of dudes in tights on top of each other. No. I'm going to be in the room with all the hot chicks, and I'm standing behind them while they're bending over. Yeah, which one of us is gay? So this coach took the class. He was in the aerobics class, right? For health reasons. He was like doing it for stretching and whatnot. It's like probably he looked like he was in his 60s, but again, this is when guys who are in their 40s look like they were in their 60s. So he was probably in his 40s. And so we're all in this class together, and he knew that I had a dance background. Like I've been a dancer since I was 11. And again, and the only reason I was in dance, it was no guys in dance. So they needed guys who could lift. I never had to pay for a dance class because I couldn't afford them. So I literally went to the local dance studio. It was a very famous studio. And I said, listen, I don't have any money, but I want to dance. And they were like, can you lift? I was like, I can try. And they're like, great, because we need a guy who can lift. And that was it. Like, and by the way, I spent like every afternoon lifting girls. I'm like, this is the best thing in the world. Are you kidding me? Like, all I got to learn is some dance steps and I can do this all day? Yeah. So he loved that I was a dancer. And I said, coach, I said, I can tell you the best thing for your football players is dance. I said, it's a big mistake to like, they always kind of try to separate these things out, which is so stupid anyway. Like there's a boys thing and a girls thing. It's such nonsense. But this idea that if you train football players to dance, they're actually much better football players.
Yes. And
so he loved that idea. And I said, listen, we got a big musical coming up. I need guys. You want to send over your football players and I'll put them in the show and they'll get dance lessons. And it's amazing. From the time I was a junior till this day, that football team is required to do dance practice through the theater company.
It helps your footwork, definitely. Offensive linemen especially.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. It makes everybody just more nimble. And I'm sorry, that's always positive for sports. By the way, they started winning more games, so that's why they stayed with it. So, yeah, but that was... So yeah, I guess that's the kind of troublemaker I was. I pissed off a lot of football players who, by the way, got a lot more dates after that too. So then I was a hero. So cool.
So what about books, man? Like, what sort of books were you leaning towards back then? Or authors? Did you have a genre that you lean towards?
Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. I started reading because of two things. So the first part of it was my mother was a big reader. By the way, my whole family was very literary. My mother was a story editor for Rod Serling when he was doing Night Gallery.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Back in New York. This isn't back in New York when she was with famous artists. My grandmother dated Ira Levin. And it's very funny because my mother famously read Rosemary's Baby when she was pregnant with me, which really explains a lot. But my mom at dinner, my mother would be reading. It's right when Stephen King started to hit. It was when I was really little. And my mother started reading, Carrie and then The Shining and Salem's Lot in particular. And she would recount the stories to us at dinner. Right? She would tell us like what chapters she had read, and she would tell us what happened in the chapters. And my brother and I were like, just eating it up. Like, this is amazing. But at some point she would stop and she would go, well, the next part's too scary. I can't. And I'm not going to say. And we're like, wait, but no, how does it end? We want to know the story. So I would wait until my mother was finished with the books. And then late at night, I would go and get her books out of our library. And I would sneak them up to my bedroom and read them at night. So I was an avid reader. By the time I was like 8 or 9, I was like into reading. I will also say my parents, God bless them. I mean, they like all parents, they did a lot of shitty stuff, and especially parents in the 70s. give me a break. I mean, anybody who complains about their parents now, I'm like, shut up. You have no concept. Oh my God, but like really bad. But they read to us pretty much every night, probably until we were like 5. And I had heard all the Roald Dahl books. By that time I was 4. I had heard the entire library of his books. And that is a great gateway drug for kids to get into reading. Like because the stories are so beautifully detailed and they really do come into your head, and the characters are so interesting that I think it makes you fall in love with that stuff. So I was an avid Stephen King reader, as a really young kid. And I also love Thomas Tryon, who wrote 2 of my favorite books of all time. The Other, not the Nicole Kidman movie, but there is a movie of The Other from the early 70s. It's one of John Ritter's first jobs. And Uta Hagen, the famous, one of the most remarkable acting instructors to ever live, is one of the leads of that movie.
Was that a Brian De Palma movie?
No. No, that's Sisters, which is also about twins. The Other is about twins. It is incredible. Trust me on this. The book is amazing, but the movie is incredible. Like, both are incredible. And then he also wrote a book called Harvest Home, which got turned into a TV miniseries called The Dark Secret of Harvest Home with Bette Davis. It was Bette Davis on television. And that was in the late 70s when that movie came out. But that book is probably my favorite book of all time to this day. That and Watership Down. Watership Down is an all-time favorite. And that movie scarred me like it scarred everybody in my generation. But I got to tell you, by the way, there is a reference to Watership Down in every single movie I've made. Every movie I've directed, Watership Down appears in the movie somewhere. Yeah.
Wow.
Every single time. Either it's a line of dialogue or the book itself. In my Val Kilmer movie, Val gives a copy of the book to his best friend in the military. And the best friend is like, oh, does this mean we're dating now? And so that book was incredibly significant. I'm a huge William Goldman fan. He's my favorite author, whether it's books or screenwriting. But Marathon Man, Magic, The Princess Bride. This guy is, I mean, there's nobody like William Goldman. So, yeah, man, I'm a reader. I will also say, like, I had, one of my earliest, most kind of remarkable, moments in my life, was I was in college. It's not really that early, actually. I'm in college, and a buddy of mine who was older than I was in mid-20s, he'd gotten really, really sick. And he was supposed to do an article and an interview with Clive Barker. And this is before anybody knew who Clive was. So Clive was an author, literary folks knew, but he was just premiering Hellraiser that week in New York City. No one had seen it yet. And so my buddy was like, look, you've read all of Clive's stuff, because I had read all the books of blood at that point. I had read The Inhuman Condition. Like, I was really a fan. And so this is I think it was my sophomore year. And so my buddy's like, look, can you record the interview for me? I'll give you the questions. Can you record it? Because you'll have a better banter with him than anybody else at Spin. And I was like, yeah, okay. I will go talk to this amazing author that I think is fucking brilliant. And so I went to meet him at Forbidden Planet on 12th Street and Broadway in New York. And I lived on 10th Street and Broadway at Brittany Dorms at NYU. This is when I was in film school. And so I rush up there to be there to meet him. And I'm supposed to sit at his table while he's signing books for people. And it was like a book signing, but that's where we were going to do the first part of the interview. We did 2 parts. And so I come up there and I start talking to him. And as we're talking, he references one of his stories. And before he starts to tell me, I say, no, I've read that story. And I tell him this, and he was like, you know that story? I was like, yeah, I know all your work. He was like, you're kidding. I said, no, I have every book you've ever published. I said, I have the British editions and the American editions of Books of Blood. And he's like, well, where are your books? Why didn't you bring them? I said, well, they're at my apartment. He says, where's that? I said, 2 blocks away. He says, go get your books. Go get them. So I run back to my apartment 2 blocks down. I get a duffel bag. I throw all my Barker books in it. I rush back in, and he sees the bag. He's like, "You were not kidding." I'm like, "I told you." I pull the books out, and while I conducted the interview, he not only signed all of my books, but he drew drawings in all of them. So shit, I have these like... Actually, if you hold on 1 second, I'll grab
please.
A couple so you can see
yes,
it. Hang on 1 second. Hang on 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I couldn't get up to the... we're in the middle of a lot of reconstruction right now, too, so I couldn't get up to the whole library. But I grabbed one down that's kind of the most impressive and has the best story to it. So anyway, so all of my Barker books look like that.
Wow.
Right? So he drew in all the books, right? So there's just like tons of drawings and all these creatures. Basically, everybody who ever appeared in Nightbreed is in one of my books. Before Nightbreed was a thing. So anyway, and you'll see, this says 14th September 1987. Now, why is that significant? Well, at the end of our talk together and hanging out, he said, "Hey, you want to be my guest at the premiere of Hellraiser, at the first showing that we're doing in North America?" I was like, uh-huh. He's like, "Great, you're my guest. Just come tonight. You'll be there. Like, you should see the movie." I was like, "Great." So I go there, and I've got this with me, right? Or at least this one. I think this was the one that I didn't have with me when I went to Forbidden Planet. So I said, "I got one more." He said, "Bring it tonight." I said, "Great." So I bring the book. And he signs it, draws on it, does the whole thing. And the movie is, fucking incredible. But as he's standing in the lobby talking and, he signs my book and stuff, these two guys come up to him and they start talking. And I see them. I'm like, "Oh, my God, Skip and Spectre." And they were like, "What?" And I said, "Your book, The Light at the End, is one of my favorite books of all time." They were like, You know who we are?" I was like, "Of course I know who you are." And Clive goes like, "Well, you should have him sign something." And I was like, "Well, I don't have any of their books on me, Clive. What do you think? I just walk around with books?" I said, "All I got is yours." So Skip grabs the book from me, right? And he goes, "Oh, fuck it. I'll sign this." And he writes, "Adam, next time Clive has to autograph one of our books, your pal Skip." And then his partner, Craig Spector, grabs and goes, "Adam, well, for a truly mellow time, call us." And then he draws Lumps, his character Lumps. So these two guys signed the back of the book, and they are incredible authors. And by the way, we are now Facebook friends. Since the minute Facebook happened, I wrote to all of them like, "Dudes," and they're like, "Yeah, come on, bring it." So I've started a friendship with all these guys starting in 1987. So no, I'm a book guy. On my shelf, over the pandemic and then right after, we had 2 dogs and we lost them both. Each one was 16 years old when they passed, so they had good long lives with us and they were very healthy and happy. But when we got them together, and my older dog, he was 4 years old when we adopted him. He'd been beaten, and he had been in a pretty bad situation. Beautiful Beagle Aussie Shepherd mix, beautiful dog. And so his name was Dodger, right? And I was like, "Oh, come on. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, but I'm a New York kid." I'm like, "I'm going to have a fucking animal named Dodger? Like, are you kidding me?" The other one was this little guy. He was a Chihuahua Italian Greyhound mix. So he's like a Chihuahua with really long legs and adorable. And that little guy was named Slick, and he was 6 months old. So I was like, okay, I can't change the name of the 4-year-old dog. Like, that's not cool. That dog is what that dog is. But the 6-month-old has no fucking idea that he is the worst name ever. So I'm not calling you Slick. So I said, here's what I'll do. I'll name the little guy Oliver Twisted, and now his brother becomes the Barkville Dodger. So now it was a Dickens reference, not a fucking baseball team that I can't stand.
There you go.
So they became Oliver and Dodger. Now they're named after, of course, the book Oliver Twist, and also the musical, because my entire family, every single person in the family, has been in a version of Oliver. And my brother Kip was on Broadway when we were kids with Patti LuPone and Ron Moody as one of Fagin's boys in the revival of Oliver on Broadway. So Oliver is like a big deal in our family. Well, for my 25th birthday, one of my closest friends in the world, this lovely woman named Sherry Erickson, she got me this present that I still can't believe I own. It is an original first printing of Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. That's it. And it's very funny because I keep it on my shelves. And when people come over, I'm like, I show it to them and stuff. They're like, why isn't this cased in glass? And I was like, oh, stop. It's a book. It should be read. Like, don't treat books that way. That's terrible. Yes, you want to be careful with them. I don't want to damage. It's in perfect shape. But I'm like, no. Books are not that. Don't treat books that way. Treat books with reverence, but you got to read them.
Agreed.
And if they're under glass, you ain't gonna read the fucking thing. So
right.
So anyway, there's the book side.
Just a quick funny dog name story.
Please.
Recently, when I was interviewing Crispin Glover, and before we do the official interview, we're just chatting beforehand. I think it's clear everybody knows how he feels about Back to the Future over the years.
Oh yeah.
So we're talking about dogs, and he's asking me about my dog because he was off screen, and my dog's name is Biff. And, and it's just, I was kind of avoiding the topic a little.
Wow.
And I said my dog's name is Biff, and you could just see him sort of stiffen up and straight up. He was like, "Well,
Bristle, yeah,
that's a nice name."
Yeah.
So
he's like, what do you think? What do you think my car runs on? Methane. He is so talented and so nuts, and I'm telling you, like, I was a River's Edge fan like nobody's business. Like, I fucking love that movie. When I met Keanu Reeves in New York City, before anybody really knew who he was, I was at the first screening of Mississippi Burning. By the way, same year as the Clive thing. I'm at a screening, and I had set my schedule at NYU that I would only ever have 4 days of class. So Monday through Thursday, I had my classes, and then Friday through Sunday, I could shoot movies. Like, I always had 3 days that I could really do my work. And so on that particular Friday morning, Alan Parker is my favorite filmmaker, and he had Mississippi Burning had just come out, and I was like, I'm there for a showing. Like, anything he did, I was there for. And it was funny because usually, because I was such a poor, I had no money. I would go to a movie at a multiplex in New York so that I could just pay for a ticket for the 11 o'clock in the morning show, and then just bounce and see every new film, go to 5 movies that one day, be done.
Yeah.
And it would cost me 1 ticket, right? This movie was at a specialty theater. It was 1 screen up on the Upper East Side. And I was like, fuck it. I don't care. It was the only screen that was showing Mississippi Burning in New York. I'm like, I've got to go see it. So I was like paying top dollar for that. I think it was like $8. It was like, and so I go to see the movie, and there's probably about like 10 of us in this entire theater because it was an 11 a.m. showing on a gray Friday morning. And so I'm sitting in the theater, and I'm watching the movie, and the movie just tears me to pieces, man. Like, I am just broken by that. I love that film. And so there's tears streaming down my face by the end of the movie, just sitting there alone, 5th row center, which is always where you'll find me. And I'm watching, I'm just really blown away. And as I'm sitting there sobbing to myself, somebody touches me on the shoulder. And I turn, I'm like, oh, hey. And it's Keanu Reeves. And he goes, hey, man, that's beautiful. And I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, it's a really great movie. He goes, yeah, but your reaction, it's really beautiful. And he was with his girlfriend, the one who passed away, who he was engaged to, the one who played his beautiful princess in Bogus Journey, because Diane Franklin did it in the first one, and then she took over. And so the two of them are standing there, and I'm starstruck. Nobody knows who Keanu. I mean, I think Bill and Ted had just come out, but that's it. But I knew him from River's Edge and from Permanent Record. And Permanent Record, if you've never seen it, see it. It's freaking incredible. It's a Canadian movie. It's so good, dude. It's a Canadian movie about teen suicide.
Wow.
And Keanu Reeves is unreal how good he is in that movie. Like, I knew how good this guy was as an actor so before the American audiences, because I anything new that came out, I saw it. Like, I was that guy. And so he says to me, he says, hey, you want to go and get a cup of coffee and talk about the movie? And I was like, yeah. And so I sat with Keanu Reeves and this lovely woman, and I didn't have a coffee because I didn't drink coffee. I think I had like a Diet Coke or some shit. And we just sat at this little place around the corner from the movie theater and just talked about Mississippi Burning. And I told him what a huge fan I was of Permanent Record. And he was like, whoa. You know, he did not expect that. And it was like this lovely, 40-minute thing with Keanu Reeves before anybody knew who Keanu Reeves was, So, you bring up Crispin Glover. My head does not go to Back to the Future or to Willard. My head goes right to River's Edge, because I just think that movie's incredible. And I think he's brilliant in that film. Brilliant.
Did you ever see Crispin Glover's episode of the Cabinet of Curiosities? With
I did not.
Del Toro's anthology.
No, I did not.
He's excellent in that. That's really what we talked about a lot, was because
I love that.
He does the Lovecraft Pickman's Model adaptation. And he got flack for it because he went all in on the Boston accent. Like he does. Yeah, but like he does. But it was excellent. I would recommend that for sure.
Oh, good. I'm definitely going to check that out tomorrow. That's awesome. I'll put that on my list.
And I meant to ask you this earlier, but we just started talking. But I know he passed away in '75. But did you get a chance to meet Rod Serling? Did your mom tell you anything about him?
Legend has it that I met him when I was an infant.
Oh, man.
But that's all. Yeah. That it literally, as I was coming into this world, he was on his way out. I did meet him, but as such a small child, I would never have remembered him. So yeah.
Did your mom have any Rod Serling stories?
No, she was enamored with him and had a bit of a crush on him. I knew that. Like, she was just really she just thought he was dreamy. I wouldn't be surprised if my mother took up smoking because of Rod Serling. So thanks for that, Rod. But look, what was great? The great thing about Rod Serling, and by the way, about Ira Levin, was that we were encouraged to read and we were encouraged to know about people as people rather than as gods. And I think that was incredibly important in my growing up. Look, as I mentioned, Paul Newman lived near us in town. And Paul Newman's whole thing was he wanted to be your neighbor, not a movie star. Yes. He had no interest in that. No interest in that life of any kind. And as long as you were just a good neighbor, then he would talk to you and hang out and all that good shit. So he was incredibly warm and incredibly, not about his fame. And so, look, by the time I was 11 years old, I was doing play readings with people like Keir DeLay from 2001, with Sandy Dennis, and Frank Gorshin, the original the original Riddler on the Batman series. I was doing play readings with these people. So there was nothing about any of that was sort of I never had this about any of that.
Demystified it.
Yes, exactly. They're just human beings. They're just artists, and they want and honestly, I think this mostly about filmmakers, and movie stars, of course, but I think that when our directors become less interesting is when they take themselves too seriously as an important part of cinema culture. So anyone I know any of the filmmakers that I really adore, they're usually people who are very good at kind of staying grounded and having a life outside of movies. As much as I love cinema, and I adore it, I mean, it's my crack. As much as I adore it, I try to live my life and have a life outside of all that stuff, because otherwise you just end up making movies about movies. And if you're really famous, you end up making movies about your own movies. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of filmmakers out there that are now just making movies about movies about movies about movies. And there's there's diminishing returns, man. Like, we wonder why guys like Francis Ford Coppola becomes less and less interesting. I don't think it's because he forgot how to make movies. I think he just stopped making movies about life. George Lucas, best example of it, right? So here's this guy who, by the way, was never great with dialogue. That was never his thing, okay? Even in American Graffiti, he had great actors doing that dialogue, but the dialogue is, it is what it is. Star Wars is amazing because the dialogue is all otherworldly. So we didn't understand any of it. It was brand new to us, right? It was all this new jargon. And he had Peter Cushing and Sir Alec Guinness and James Earl Jones in these pivotal master roles, right? They're the masters. And then these children are played by Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford, none of which were very good when they made that movie. They weren't good actors. They were young, they were scrappy, they had the right energy, but they weren't great actors. They turned into great actors. Mm-hmm. And I think that when Lucas ended up making the second trilogy of films, he wasn't making movies that were connected to human beings in any way. He was making movies about effects and the world that he surrounded himself with. And the guy left society, right, to create this better universe for himself, but ultimately caged his writing and his filmmaking into something that was nothing but artifice. So, the big problem with that first trilogy, or the second trilogy, but first canonically, is that it loses its soul because it's not about human beings anymore. It's about the tech. And I think that that's something that happens to a lot of filmmakers, and look, George Lucas is a god. Like, God bless him. He's an amazing human being. He did incredible things. He changed our industry, mostly for good, but in other ways very badly. I think Steven Spielberg always connects to life. And I think it's why his filmmaking has never suffered. Agreed. He has a life. Agreed. He stays in the world. He doesn't remove himself from it. I think that's a big deal.
Also, like J.J. Abrams, I feel like he does similar to what you're talking about here. When you said that, Super 8 pops to mind. That's one of my favorite movies.
100%. It's an incredible movie. It's an incredible, and it's his most Spielbergian movie.
Which exactly.
If you're going to learn from somebody, learn from the best. So well done. But look, whenever anybody shits on the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, and it's usually the only people who shit on them are people who are Trekkers. Mm-hmm. My wife is a Trekker, so, I know of what I speak when it comes to this. But, I have a lot of friends who fucking hate those movies, and my response to them is, is the acting too good? The writing was just too good. It just upset you that they actually spoke like people. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I bet they love that.
Oh, they love it. They love it. I will tell you, because I'm a fan of I'm a fan of Star Trek. I mean, I watch the original series as a curiosity now because I go come on, this is just bad acting. And I will tell you, this is what's real. How funny this comes up. Last night, so there's a guy named Curtis Fortier, who's a wonderful actor. So Curtis is one of the leads of my movie Secret Santa. And he's been working with me, Curtis has been with me for probably close to 20 years now. Yeah, right about that. He's marvelous. Anyway, he was in class with me last night because I teach acting. I've never stopped teaching acting. It's one of my passions, and it's also where I meet most of the actors that are part of my troupe. So Curtis is in the troupe. Curtis is a total trekker, right? Like the biggest one I know. So it's his birthday today. So last night for his birthday scene in class, he wanted to do something from OG Star Trek, and he played Kirk. By the way, full costume.
Oh man.
And the woman who played opposite him, full costume. My wife has 6 costumes. I mean, these are Trekkers are really particular. And by the way, Trekkers are better people than Star Wars fans. I'm a Star Wars guy. Okay. Star Wars fans are dicks. I'm including myself in this. It's in the title. Okay. Star Wars people like wars. Star Trek people want to explore.
It's about the journey.
Yes, they're positive. Star Wars people are assholes just because of what we like. And of course, we're always the ones who like bitch about everything. Anyway, so Curtis was doing this scene in class from the OG Star Trek. And just the two actors on stage, it was an upgrade to the performance quality. And I don't blame that on the actors. That's a time period thing. There was a different style of acting back then, right? I mean, Shatner... It's all here. And so even when you watch Shatner as an older, and by the way, I know Shatner, like he's a great guy. He's really sweet. He really is. Like he has a weird reputation. I don't really understand it because he's kind of amazing and he's a workhorse. This guy's in his 90s and he's still working. Like
he doesn't look like it at all.
No, he does not. He really doesn't. And he has been bald since he was like 30. So I think having a rug all that time helps with the like not aging thing. But like when you watch him as Denny Crane on Boston Legal, you're like, this guy's giving an incredible performance. It's amazing. But what's funny is he's still doing a lot of the same things. He's still doing it, but it somehow became part of who he is. So it becomes more honest. Anyway, so Curtis and this brilliant woman, Kristen Wall, were doing this scene from Star Trek. And it's a scene where Kirk is he's in trouble because he's being prosecuted by the Federation for something against computers. I don't remember the fucking episode, but it's bad. And Kirk's going to lose his captainship. And he meets with this woman who he used to have a sexual relationship with, right? And it's this wonderful meeting, and they're in a bar and they're both drinking, and and this woman is telling him, Jim, listen, you got to get a lawyer for this. You're really in trouble here. And she goes through the case with him and talks to him, blah, blah. And then she grabs his hands. She says, he says, well, why don't you represent me? You're a wonderful lawyer. She goes, well, no, I can't. I'm too busy. But and he gives him the name of a lawyer. This is the person who should represent you, blah, blah, blah. And finally, Kirk goes, where are you running off to? Why are you going? And she goes, well, Jim, my old love, I'm the one prosecuting you. And I went, oh, this is the worst fucking writing I've ever heard. I was like, okay, so hey, Jim, that's all prosecutorial misconduct. This thing's getting thrown out of court. Like, she just literally gave you all reversible error you need. I guarantee you not one lawyer looked at this script. I'm not a lawyer, and I know this is fucking... Watch 2 episodes of Law & Order, the prosecutor can't sit down with the defendant and have a long beer conversation about the case. You can't do that. I was like, what is this? So again, the J.J. Abrams films, they just suck because they're so well written and acted and shot, and they're entertaining. They're constantly entertaining. There's no boring parts. I know it's not Star Trek without boredom. By the way, I'm sure I pissed off half your audience at this point.
Hey, I say all the time, I piss them off all the time because I really can't watch the original Star Trek, but I am the Next Generation guy.
Absolutely. And again, I'm telling, look, my wife, you have to, my wife and I are writing partners, right? And she's fucking brilliant. Her obsession with all things sci-fi, but specifically Star Trek, I know that if I'm writing on a Thursday night, she's down there watching the new episode of Enterprise. Like that's, or whatever the fuck is, whatever iteration of it is on right now. It is every week. She is down in that, and I'm writing alone for that night. She's doing her Star Trek thing. She's, I don't know, she's masturbating quietly. But it's, God bless her. Like, do your thing, baby. It's all good. All good.
It's just funny that we ended up on this tangent because before we recorded, I just randomly watched an episode of The Next Generation just because I like it.
It's great. Look, and by the way, I thought Picard was fucking incredible. Like, I watched a bunch of that show, and I was like, this is really good. Like, I get it. It's Star Trek's awesome. It just JJ, I think, brought way too much entertainment value to that franchise for people who love the franchise to go, this is great.
Well, many years ago, I was able to interview Jonathan Frakes, and I took him off guard because I'm sure he thought we were going to sit down for an hour of Star Trek questions, and I really just asked him about Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. He doesn't get a lot of that.
Dude, but I gotta say, honestly, look, and any questions you have, please feel free. But I will tell you, when I get on a podcast with somebody and they bring up a film that isn't Jason Goes to Hell, I'm like, what? um, and again, listen, I know what. Look, I never want to. I never want to pay to see a band that I love, and I walk in the door and they don't play the fucking hits. Like, fuck you, play the hits. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to hear that. Well, this is some new material from our new album coming out soon. Like, fuck you. Like, I don't care. I don't care about your new songs because I guarantee they're not going to be as good as the old songs. So cut it out, or they're going to just be retreads of the old songs. So just play me the old songs. You want to hear the hits. That said, for those of us that have made more than one album, it is really exciting when somebody goes, hey, so when you made Let It Snow and you work with Stephen Colbert, I'm like, yeah. Yes. What is that question? Please go right ahead. So look, by the way, even when people bring up my fucking Val Kilmer movie, which was the worst period of my life ever and the worst experience I ever had, I still go, fuck yeah, I'll talk about it. Like, yeah, you want to shit on Val? Let's do it.
Oh no.
Happy to do it. He's a piece of shit. He's a terrible person. I don't care that he died. That made him special? No, he died. He died because he was an arrogant prick. Like, enough. Like, everybody wants to kind of whitewash everything in our society. It's like, stop it. Because someone dies doesn't canonize them.
What year did you work with Val, by the way?
2007. So
it was well after the whole Island of Dr. Moreau, Richard Stanley situation.
Yeah. No. In fact, I've spoken to Richard about that. And I got to talk to Joel Schumacher before he died about Val. All of us directors who survive Val, we're like a little club. And we are the people that were abused by Val Kilmer. Look, John Frankenheimer, better than anybody else. Really, he has two brilliant quotes about Val. Two, John Frankenheimer is amazing. One was, there are two things I know I will never do in my life again. He says, two things in my life I will never do. I will never climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and I will never work with Val Kilmer again. And the other one, which is an even snarkier, better quote, which is, Will Rogers never met Val Kilmer. And Will Rogers famously said, I never met a man that I didn't like. Like, by the way, John Frankenheimer, who was not a nice guy, okay? No one ever accused John Frankenheimer of being too sweet, okay? That guy was so savage. And for him to hate you with that kind of hate in his heart, like, that was a rare thing. Because I think Frankenheimer knew he was a prick. Like, I'm a prick. Okay. But I'm not Val Kilmer.
He had that reputation before you worked with him, so were you wary initially?
Dude, here's what's horrifying. So Deborah, my wife, and I wrote this script called Conspiracy. And, oh, man. So we write this screenplay, and we send it to our agent, right? Just to read it. Just take a look at it. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Hey, I've got a production company that wants to make the movie. They read the movie. They're flipping out over it. They love it. They want you to direct it, and Val Kilmer's attached. I was like, wait, what? This is in 2 weeks, okay? And I was like, you're kidding me. He's like, no. And by the way, this is a movie that I wrote that I had no interest in directing. I was not going to direct this movie. It was kind of an adaptation of Bad Day at Hanging Rock. Bad Day at Black Rock. Sorry, not Hanging Rock. Hanging Rock is the Peter Weir movie. And so from a guy who owned the rights to that movie, so they wanted us to kind of loosely adapt that. And this was the first draft of the script. So it was like, that does not happen. Like, you don't hand in a first draft and 2 weeks later you have a go movie. So they said, look, Val wants to meet with you. Val wants to sit down with you. I was like, okay, I will go meet with Val Kilmer. Cool. By the way, I knew all the rumors, knew all that shit, right? I go in to meet with him, and this was the first big warning sign. He is 55 minutes late, and we're at his house. He's in the other room on a phone call. Now, here's the thing. You also know, in our industry, that shit happens. Like, it just does. Some of it is a power move, and people do that power bullshit in our industry. Other times, it's simply that a very important person is there. They get caught in something they didn't expect to get caught in. You're sitting there and you wait, and that's what you do. So I'm fine. I'm in a very nice house in the Hollywood Hills. Okay, I'm going to sit here. So he comes out, he apologizes immediately. We start talking. And he says, in our first meeting, hey, listen, I know what my reputation is. I know. And here's the thing. All of it's true. I was like, what? And he said, here's the other thing. I just worked with Robert Downey Jr., who really got his shit together. And this is when they did Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. He said, and I have to tell you, man, I really saw what I was doing and how I was hurting people. And Robert kind of read me the riot act, which is a true story, by the way. He did. And I can't behave that way anymore, and I know it. So, look, I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you up front. Yeah, I did all that shit. I did. I was a jerk. But I'm not that guy anymore. And I was like, wow, like, that's awesome. Here's the thing I forgot. I forgot one thing. Val Kilmer was a very skilled craftsman. He knew how to perform to get a part, to get a job. He knew how to do that. And that escaped me. And he was an incredibly talented craftsman. By the way, I will never say he's a good actor. Never, because he's not a good actor. Being a good actor has nothing to do with whether you can perform or not. Being a good actor is how you treat your fellow castmates. Being a good actor is being a good partner. He did not have any idea how to do anything that came with partnership. None. Didn't get it. So I worked with Val for months, crafting sort of what he wanted to do in the movie. So, and by the way, that was not the first time I met Val. I met Val at Sundance in 2000 when I had a movie at Sundance called Let It Snow, which Stephen Colbert was in. It was one of his first movies. Bernadette Peters had come out of an eight-year retirement from film. She hated doing movies. She came and did my movie with me. The cast is incredible. Like, you see that movie and you're like, oh my God, every person, and they're all brand new people in my movie. And so when I was at Sundance, the year we were at Sundance, 2000, Let It Snow was the most shown movie at the Sundance Film Festival that year by 4 showings. We had 9 showings at Sundance. That does not happen. By the way, I didn't have to apply to Sundance. They asked me to be there. They saw the film in LA at LAIFF, where we won all the awards, and we got reviewed by Variety and Hollywood Reporter. And Variety called me part Capra, part Preston Sturgis, but wholly contempo. I turned to my wife, I was like, you can put me in a box. I'm done. Like, it's not going to get better from here. And so Sundance asked us to be there, right? So we're there. And my brother and I, Kip, who's in Jason Goes to Hell, is one of the leads of Jason Goes to Hell. He wrote the movie and produced it, and I produced it with him and directed it. And so when we would do screenings at Sundance, it became kind of a thing. Well, first thing, it was the first movie to sell out that year at Sundance. It was a big deal. And then we had pictures of people with signs. The original title of the movie was Snow Days. And people would hold up signs saying, we'll do anything for Snow Days, because they couldn't get tickets. So what would happen is, after the movie screened, Kip and I would do a Q&A with the audience every showing. Well, the Q&A, my brother and I, we're both theater guys, and we work together our whole lives. So when we get on stage, it's like a comedy routine, like we do a thing. And we had people in the audience from our team who, if we didn't get a question that we needed to keep the show going, they would give the question. And we'd be like, oh yeah, you in the third row. And of course, somebody like who works with us who would feed us the next question. So the movie would screen, and it was sold out. Every screening was sold out, but it would sell out. And then when Kip and I hit the stage, they'd open the doors so that people who wanted to leave could leave, because you have to stay for the Q&A. No one would leave, and more people would push in. So we had these like incredibly packed Q&As afterwards. So here's what happens. Kip and I are waiting outside while the movie's screening. We're not going to watch that fucking movie again. So we're out in the theater, and we're sitting there talking, chit-chatting, and in walks an incredibly drunk Val Kilmer. I mean, drunk out of his mind. And he walks up to me and he goes, he's looking at the signs. He goes, hey, man, where's Groove playing? And I said, oh, it's Theater One. It's right there. He's like, oh, thanks, man. And he stumbles drunk into this movie Groove that was literally right next door to us in that theater. And about 10 minutes later, he walks out of Groove, stumbles back over to us, goes, "Man, that movie sucks." "What's that?" And we said, "That's our movie." He goes, "Is it good?" I said, "Yeah, it's pretty good." He goes, "Okay." And he just stumbles into that theater. He watched the whole movie and hung out for the Q&A. Didn't talk to him again after that, but I saw him. I watched him the whole time I was doing the Q&A. There was Val Kilmer. When we're developing the script, he says to me, he says, "Well, man, I remember meeting you at Sundance." I was like, "What?" He says, "Yeah, when I saw Let It Snow." Okay. And now I'm like, wow, you are a functioning alcoholic, my man. This guy then says, "Dude, I thought you were so good in that movie. You got to be in our movie with me. We got to do scenes together. We got to work together." And I was like, "Wait, you're asking me to act with you?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." So I'm in the movie. I'm in Conspiracy, and I have a pretty sizable part because Val asked me to be in the movie with him. When we shoot my scenes with Val, you always put the camera on number one first, and he's number one. So we put the camera on number one. We shoot him out, right? We shoot a master, and then we shoot him. When we turn around to get my coverage, Val leaves. And
wow.
I worked with his stunt double.
Yeah.
By the way, he did the same thing to Gary Cole. Gary fucking Cole, and he never stayed for coverage for Gary. Not once. I acted opposite Gary Cole every time. He also sexually harassed 4 different women on my set, made my lead actress cry almost every day she was on set with him. I mean, this is a guy who should have been canceled 50 times. So,
yeah.
Anybody want in whatever comments you're getting right now, anybody wants to say something about me, go ahead, go for it.
We're safe.
By the way, I got 6 hours of behind the scenes footage that I own, and it's literally Val doing this shit. So I keep receipts. So.
That's what always just blew my mind about the whole Island of Dr. Moreau story is you got Marlon Brando on that set and you're pulling that shit.
By the way, you got Marlon Brando on that set and you're the bad one. Wow. Like, you know what it takes to out be a bigger pig than Marlon Brando? Wow.
Brando's like, "What's up with this guy?"
Seriously. I mean, like, that is... I mean, I almost have to applaud it, like the audacity. It's like, wow, well done, sir. Like, I didn't think that was possible. But yeah, it's possible. And Val could do it. Yeah. Good for you about Jonathan Frakes. I think that's fucking cool, man. Like, like if you can get to somebody through material that they're not as used to talking about, I think you always end up with a better interview. And and the person you're interviewing feels like, oh shit, you actually know what I've done in this world. Like, that's fucking cool. Yeah.
And my rule is I don't talk to people I don't want to talk to. So I never do anything promo, don't just come on to promo. It's like, if I like you, I'll reach out and hopefully you want to talk to me. That's how I operate.
Love it, dude. I think that's great. No, it's really cool.
And so my boyfriend's back.
Oh, goodness. Yes.
I wore that movie out growing up. I just wanted to ask you about it. I think were you the producer?
I am. Yes, I am the associate producer of the movie. What happened on My Boyfriend's Back? My Boyfriend's Back really is sort of the way I got Jason Goes to Hell. People always think it's because I was, around the Cunninghams my whole life, which is part of it. That's part of the story. So when I was a little kid, my best friend from 3rd grade on was a guy named Noel Cunningham, who was Sean Cunningham's son. And what I knew about Noel's dad was that he had made a porn movie. That's what everybody talked about. Nobody talked about Last House on the Left. They talked about the porn he had made. Because Sean made a movie called Together, which is a rated X piece of pornography. He discovered Marilyn Chambers, who went to my high school. And my buddy Noel played Marilyn Chambers' love baby. Because Sean needed a baby and Noel was a baby. So Noel was Marilyn Chambers' baby in that movie. So that was so, like, cool. Like, your dad made a porn. Like, for a 9-year-old boy, you're like, what? Like, that's cool. And then once I got to know him, once I got to know Sean and I had spent time there, and of course I never told my mother that he made a porn movie because I would never been allowed there. But, then I found out about Last House on the Left, and which I had not seen at that point. I also knew that Sean was making these movies for kids. Here Come the Tigers and Manny's Orphans and really bad ripoffs of the Bad News Bears. That's all they were. They were terrible fucking movies. But he shot them in Westport, Connecticut, where I grew up. So Sean was kind of like a little local legend, right? Okay. Well, the only movie that made money for Sean was Last House on the Left. The only thing that really made that and the porn movie, but he didn't want to keep making porn. By the way, it's also why this tracks. When you watch Last House on the Left, half of that more than half the cast are porn actors.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. F.J. Lincoln is the two killers. There's Hess and then there's Lincoln. F.J. Lincoln is a legend in the porn industry. He wasn't just a performer for like 20 years. He was also a huge director of pornography. So that's why it went to that. Also, they needed actors who were willing to go where that movie goes and be okay with it. So he had a lot of adult actors in that movie. I love when we say adult actors. So stupid. He worked with a lot of people who work in porn, for God's sake. Adult actors. They're all adults. And it's funny. I always love that, like, they give a better performance than Martin Kove gives in that movie, which is amazing. And Martin Kove was very good when he got older, but wow, he's bad in that movie. So here was this guy who was making these movies, and I thought he was really cool. And he basically said, look, the only thing that's really made money for me is a horror movie. So he came up with a title, Friday the 13th. Victor Miller had already been working with Sean on some of the kid movies, and Victor wrote this script about a camp, about this, this murders that happened at this camp. And Sean read that script and said, this would be perfect for my title, Friday the 13th. Now, by the way, here's what's really gross about the title Friday the 13th. It's something most people don't know. So Sean wanted to tell, like John Carpenter, right? Sean wanted to tell stories that happened on the unluckiest day of the year. He like Carpenter didn't want to make Michael Myers movies. Sean didn't want to make Voorhees movies, Pamela or Jason. He wanted to make movies about the unluckiest day of the year, Friday the 13th. Noel Cunningham was born on Friday the 13th. His son's birthday is Friday the fucking 13th. And your father makes a industry out of your birthday being the unluckiest day of the year. So there I am with the Cunninghams, and I'm around for Friday, and then I apprentice edited on spring break for his wife Susan, which, by the way, most inappropriate movie for a 13-year-old boy to work on. Like, it was ridiculous because it's just nothing but wall-to-wall boobies. Like, that's it. That's the whole movie, just boobs. By the way, the greatest experience I think I ever had up to that point. I always joke that I walked in the editing room, a boy came out a man. But it was amazing. Like, it was really like an amazing experience. And Susan, who was like a mom to me, was like a second mother. Susan just taught me so much about editing and about music editing and sound supervision. And like, I learned so much from her, more than I think I ever learned from Sean, actually, just from a technical standpoint. So Sean had moved to LA while I was in Connecticut and then New York at NYU. And when I made my last film, my senior thesis at NYU, I won Best Picture and we swept the awards. And again, we were up against like 300 movies, and the movie just did incredibly well. We were nominated for a Student Academy Award. I mean, it was like a big deal. Here's the problem. At NYU, the movie that I made was this like really funny teen comedy, as if written by David Mamet. So it was like a lot of dirty language, but it was about teenagers. And it was in color, and it was fun. It was a lot of the things that stuff from NYU at that time period were not. We didn't shoot in black and white. We didn't have subtitles. We didn't have people sipping little cups of coffee, talking about the woman who got away from them. It was like this sweet, funny romance. And the professors at NYU were like, holy shit, we love this movie. Like, we love this. So we did incredibly well at the festival. However, the dean of the program would not bring the movie to Los Angeles to show because it wasn't NYU enough. And I was like, wait a minute. We won all your fucking awards and we're not NYU enough. They actually created an award for my film, which was the Ensemble Cast Award. Every single person in the movie got an award for their work as an actor. So I was like, how is it not NYU enough? Your staff thinks it's NYU enough. Like, what does that mean? So I got 2 job offers from my screening at NYU. One was to be in the writer's room on Twin Peaks season 2. And the second offer was from Sean Cunningham, who said, quote unquote, come to LA, be my bitch for a year, and I'll give you your shot. I could not have gotten out to LA quicker. And look, because of the theater, I wrapped up my theater company at that point, but because of all the theater I'd done, I paid off all my student loans. Like I was done. Like I was free and clear, right? The problem is I only had $300 to my name at that point, and I had no driver's license. And I'm moving to Los Angeles. So I'm 21. I don't have a fucking driver's license. Like it was like, and I was a bike messenger in New York City. So, I mean, like I knew how to get hit by a taxi, but I couldn't be in a regular car when it happened. So I get to LA and I create a ruse to get Sean to read the script because I wasn't just going to hand him the script. By the way, and I really was Sean's slave. Like I had to make a giant bow. It took a whole day to construct a giant bow to put on the top of his wife's new car when he gave it to her. So I'm out in like 110 degree heat constructing this fucking huge bow on his wife's car. It was like, okay, really? And then in the middle he'd be like, get my lunch. So, and I worked on a movie at that time called House 4.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious since there's no House 3 in this country. There's House 1, House 2, the horror show, House 4. In Europe, it's called House 3. So I worked on House 4, and I was a PA. And the woman who was the production coordinator hated me so much. I mean, she fucking hated me. The reason she hated me is because she knew I was going to be directing a movie soon. And I was 21. And she hated that, like, I was this close friend of the Cunninghams, all this stuff. So basically, she could only go so far in abusing me. And I remember she was one of those people who says, "Okie dokie, artichokey." Man, I've never wanted to punch someone so bad in my life. Like, I just wanted to throat punch her. Okie dokie, artichokey. Shut the fucky up, you idiot. I mean, it's like, oh, the worst. Anyway. So I had this movie called Johnny Zombie that I had workshopped with my best friend in college, Dean Laurie. And we had worked on this thing for like 3 years. And I had gotten storyboards done. I had gotten design work done. I mean, this was the movie I was going to make. Like, I wanted to start my career with this movie. And it was this hardcore comedy horror musical. And it was like an R-rated, bloody fucking film, right? It was also a movie that was very much of its time period and something where we really had something to say. So even back then, even when I was a kid, I knew, like, when you watch Night of the Living Dead, and by the way, this is the greatness of our genre. This is the greatness of horror movies. George Romero made this incredible movie, this seminal film that started the zombie genre, right? He's the guy. And this movie and Night of the Living Dead is a fucking masterpiece in every fucking way. But anyone who thinks it's about, flesh-eating ghouls is not getting the point. The movie's about Vietnam, and the movie's about the civil rights movement. And I'm sorry. The last 2 minutes of that film is the most harrowing 2 minutes in all of cinema. When Ben gets shot in the head, not because they think he's a zombie. He's a black guy who puts his hand up inside and they shoot him in the head, okay? And then put a hook in him and pull him out onto a fire. I'm sorry, guys, come on. It's not subtle. Like, he really did say what he's saying, right? And then we jump to Dawn of the Dead, and why are they all here? Well, they come to the mall because it's a place that they felt good in when they were alive. Oh, my God. Like, that movie's about commercialism run fucking amok, And I'm sorry, was he right? Couldn't be more fucking right, right? So Johnny Zombie, knowing all of that, Johnny Zombie is ostensibly, the script was about a young guy who is unextraordinary. He's normal. We didn't make him a nerd. He wasn't that kid. Here's this guy who's just like most of us. He's in the middle, right? He's not special. He's not a nerd. He's just in the middle. He's invisible. And for one night, he wants to be extraordinary. He wants to be an extraordinary guy. And he chooses the prom is going to be that night. And he's going to ask his best friend, this girl that when they were little kids, they bathed together. They put them in the bath together, right? This little girl that he has grown up with, who's his best friend, but he's secretly madly in love with her. This girl, Missy McLeod, who lives next door, who's the sheriff's daughter. And when he finally gets up the nerve to ask her to go to the prom, he is shot and killed in a convenience store holdup protecting her. And as he dies in her arms, he asks her, want to go to the prom? And she can't say no to a dying guy who's dying because of her. She says, yeah, sure. And he dies. Now, here's the thing. He's laid to rest in the cemetery. The cemetery is built over an Indian burial ground. Okay? That was our story. Now, by the way, for anybody in the comments who's suddenly like, you're the Native Americans, you're being insensitive. No, we're not being insensitive. We're actually saying something. And if you get the point of the movie, you'll understand what we're saying. By the way, one of my favorite quotes of all time is Stephen King wrote right when COVID had happened, when things were just fucking out of control and just bad. Everything was bad. Stephen King wrote, wow, America sure seems to have bad luck. It's almost like we were built over an Indian burial ground.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
Man, he is the cleverest motherfucker. God, I love that man. So anyway, that was our story. Now, the thing is that when Johnny rises from the dead, the cemetery is full of zombies that have all risen from the dead, and they come out at night when nobody can see them, when nobody's around. They have pinochle championships, and they play cards, and they perform musical numbers together, like they put on shows for each other, right? So it was like this whole like society living inside the confines of the graveyard. The rule was, if you leave the confines, in 3 days, your body will deteriorate and you'll break apart to nothing. If you stay on the Indian burial ground, which is this magical sacred space, you won't degenerate. You're just dead. Okay. Johnny says, no, I have to go to the prom. That's the only reason I've come back. I have to go to the prom. And they're like, Johnny, you're going to die. He's like, I don't care. I have to get to the prom. And they don't tell him the 3-day rule. He leaves the cemetery and they're like, well, you got 3 days. Like, wait, but the prom is in 5. Like, well, you're going to have to eat the flesh of the living. So suddenly this kid has to do this hideous, grotesque thing in order to get to the prom. But here's what happens, and this is the magic of the movie. Johnny inspires the people inside the graveyard to go and finish their lives, to finish their unfinished business. And suddenly, all the zombies start leaving the graveyard to go back to their families, to see their kids for the last time, to see their parents for the last time. Now, why were we doing this? Well, we wrote this movie in the late 80s in New York City because Dean Lorey and I were both theater kids, and we had a lot of friends who died of AIDS in the late 80s in New York City. And we had a lot of friends who would go home to their parents, and because they would have the carcinoma, marks on their body, people thought they were lepers. They were shunned. If you touch me, I'm going to get AIDS. All bullshit. All of it was bullshit. But people who had not changed, they just were ill. They hadn't changed. They were the same person. Those people were shoved away from society. So now you have all these zombies going home, and people are running, screaming from their homes, keeping them locked out, won't touch them, won't be. So we were making an AIDS allegory. And these people are going to die in 3 days, and all they're looking for is to hug their loved ones. They don't want to eat anybody. They don't want to kill anybody. They just want to be loved. So that was the movie we were trying to make, right? Okay. So I have this screenplay, And I had a lot of friends who had left NYU, come to LA, and become like, caterers or waiters and things like that. So I had a few friends who worked in hotels and in ballrooms. And whenever there would be a charity event, I would get them to sneak me in so that I could hobnob with people that might want to do my movie. So I had a collection of tuxedos. By the way, at this point, I'm living in my car. I bought a car that I was not allowed to drive. It was a 63 VW Bug, canary yellow. By the way, if you're keeping count, that car is the same make, model, year, and color of Kevin Bacon's car in Footloose. So now you have two routes to me to get one generation from Kevin Bacon. So either Friday the 13th or the same car from Footloose. I literally was living in a VW Bug. This is the worst car in the world to live in. There's no worse car. It literally, a Mini is way more comforting than a fucking VW Bug. And it's a 63, so everything is metal. There's no like plushness. It's just metal, right? So I had a rack in the back that I put my clothes on, and I had 3 tuxedos because I'm a lunatic. So I had 3 tuxedos. So I would go to these things, I'd dress in a tuxedo, I'd look really good, and I'd go in and I would find people to dance with because I can dance. And I knew that Roger Corman and his wife Julie were going to be at one of these events. So I focused on them. I asked Julie Corman to dance. She did. She accepted. I take her out on the floor, and there I am dancing with her. And I knew that her and Roger, because Noel lived right near right near Corman Studios in Venice. So I had heard that they were having like a little bit of a bet between each other who could make the fastest low budget movie ever made between the two of them. And I was like, sign me up for that shit. Like, I want to do that, right? So I'm on the dance floor. She asks me about myself, ask her about her, and I tell her I'm a film student, and I say, I'm out in LA, and I'm working for Sean Cunningham, which of course she raised an eyebrow at, which should have been a really big sign to me. And she says, what movie are you trying to make? And I pitch her, I give her the elevator pitch of Johnny Zombie, and she's like, I love that, and the title is great. I said, thanks. She said, can you get me a copy of that script tomorrow? I was like, absolutely, I can. I immediately go and tell Noel Cunningham what just happened because I know that Noel will immediately tell his dad. The next day I get to work and I'm photocopying the script because we used to have to actually bring scripts to people. So I'm photocopying the script and Sean walks in, sees the script on my desk, goes, what's that? And I said, well, it's this movie I want to make. He goes, and he grabs it off my desk, walks into his office, slams the door. Okay. 90 minutes later, he opens up his door. I run to his office. I'm like, yeah, what's up? He goes, well, I hate this script. It's awful, but I love the title. And I think it's kind of a cool idea. So I'm going to give you $1.5 million and you'll go to Connecticut and shoot this. And I was like, wait, what now? What am I doing? He says, but I want to get a real writer on this movie. And I said, no. And then I'm not selling it to you. He's like, what? I said, no, I'm not going to fuck over my friend. That's not happening. Like, why don't you fly him out here and put the two of us up in a hotel somewhere, because I was trying to get out of the fucking car. So put us up in a hotel somewhere and let us rewrite it. I said, look, give us 6 weeks to rewrite. And if you don't like what we come up with, then you can find another writer. That I'll accept. But give Dean a shot to fix the script the way you want it. He agreed to it. He puts us up at the Holiday Inn on the 405 and Sunset. And for 6 weeks, there are rewrites. And Dean works his ass off. And when we finished it, Sean loved that script. Like, loved that fucking movie. And he said, but I think we can get more money for it. And I was like, okay. He says, I'd like to get it to a studio like New Line. I was like, oh my God, yes, please. New Line would be amazing. Let's do it New Line. So the problem is that, and Sean knew this, our industry, the people in our industry hate reading. Nobody reads. Okay. They just don't. I actually had an agent at ICM for many, many years, for a decade. who was the head of the lit department and had the most ironic name in our industry because his name was Nick Reed. He never read anything. Never read a fucking thing, ever. Didn't happen. I remember at one point he read a script of ours because his assistant, who became our agent years later, was amazing. His assistant read this script, walked into Nick's office and said, "Why are you not reading this? This is the best script I've ever read. Why are you not reading it?" And finally he read it and he called me. He's like, "Adam, you're a great writer." I was like, "Nick, you've represented me for 6 years, man." But it was literally the first thing he'd actually ever read. Anyway, I digress. So nobody reads. So I said to Sean, "Well, why don't we read it to them?" And he was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah. With my theater background and your theater background," and Sean was a major player in Broadway as a stage manager. I said, "We've got all these actors. We've got a great pair of casting directors. Why don't we actually put together a staged reading of the script and then invite studio executives to watch? Treat it like a show." He's like, "Okay, I love that." I said, "We usually do table reads. Why don't we just invite people and get better actors?" So we had these two incredible cast directors, David Giella and Barry Moss. And Barry was a legend in New York theater. And these guys, at the table read for Johnny Zombie, I had 3 Tony Award winners. That's insane. Do you remember The Facts of Life, that old TV show?
Yeah.
Okay. Charlotte Ray, Mrs. Garrett, was one of the people who read Johnny Zombie at that table. But here's the best. The person who read the part of Johnny was a guy who had been Dean and my next door neighbor for 3 years at NYU. Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler played Johnny Dingle for the first time. He was the first person to read that part.
What the hell?
By the way, the week after that reading, Adam went back to New York because he was called in for SNL. And that was it. He was on SNL from that point forward. So we do this reading. The reading is epic. It just could not have gone better. We get into a bidding war between New Line, who I wanted, and Disney. And Disney had deep pockets. And Sean loves money more than anything else. And I keep going, "Dude, please, let's go with New Line. New Line's gonna make our movie. Disney's gonna make a Disney movie. Like, please." He wouldn't listen to me. Here's the thing. $8.5 million movie. There's no way they're letting a 21-year-old guy direct it. And that time I was 22. There's no way they're going to let me direct it. Never going to happen. Actually, I was still 21. And so, by the way, the first meeting with the Disney executives, we go in there and they're like, "We love this script. We love this movie. Terrific. We only have one note. We want to get it right on. We want to get it in front of cameras. We want to get it to a green light immediately." And we're like, "One note? Pfft, great. We've been writing for 6 weeks, taking every note up the butt we could take from this guy. Give us your one note. Sounds great." They said, "Yeah, can you get rid of the zombies?" And we went, "Wait, what?" "But it's called Johnny Zombie." They said, "Yeah, about that. Could it be like, I don't know, like he's less dead and more like he's tired?" That is literally the words out of the executive's mouth. And I knew at that point, like, wow, they are not going to make our movie. They are just not. By the way, My Boyfriend's Back, which has an incredible cast, and was one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's first movies.
Yeah.
Paul Dooley and, directed by Bob Balaban, who's a fantastic actor and a wonderful director. It had all this pedigree, which was amazing. It's just, I know what the movie was.
Yeah.
And the movie that we wanted to make, I guarantee you would have ended up becoming a midnight movie classic. Like it would have become that movie. The movie they made is, it's a Disney movie, and kids that were kids when that movie came out, they fucking love that movie, which is awesome. Because there's a ton of stuff in that movie that is from the original script. It just, I will tell you, we were posting Jason Goes to Hell and My Boyfriend's Back in the same post house at the same time. And by the way, My Boyfriend's Back came out literally 1 week before Jason Goes to Hell.
Wow. That
1 week.
just seems weird thinking back.
I had 2 movies come out 1 week apart. And the thing about that movie, so Dean Lorey would be in the post house, and they had him writing all of that voiceover stuff that's in the movie, basically to make the movie make any sense at all. Dean hated his life at that point. Dean would come into the stages for Jason Goes to Hell and hide under the desk and go, "Don't tell them I'm here. I want to be with the good movie for a little while." But I will tell you this, the screenplay of Johnny Zombie, by accident, got delivered to Ron Howard. This is a couple months after that movie got made. Dean Lorey got hired by Ron Howard because he read that original script of Johnny Zombie.
Damn.
Yep. This is what happens when you ask me about a movie that isn't Jason Goes to Hell. Look at
that. I did not expect that story about my boyfriend's back.
Most people don't, because, again, there's this idea. I think that when people, even with like a movie that's a bad movie, right? Let's take just like a bad movie or a movie that turns out badly. No one goes into a movie trying to make a bad movie. Everybody goes in trying to make, we all want to make Citizen Kane. All of us, or The Godfather. We all want to do that. Shit happens, whether it's executives, producers, money, actors. There's a million things that can go wrong and screw up your movie when you started with something that you thought was pretty goddamn good. And the other thing is, every one of these movies, every production that goes on, there are tons of stories that are fascinating and weird and fucked up. And it's why I oftentimes find the story behind. Look, I think that the movie about the making of Apocalypse Now is way better than the movie Apocalypse Now. Just is. Just is. By the way, on that, I would be remiss if I not bring up Hearts of Darkness, the making of the Final Friday, which is right behind me. What a good segue. Adam, well done, sir.
You're an actor.
That could not have segued better. And again, look, the reason why I'm proud of this stock, and I did not want to make this stock. When I was first approached about this, I had no interest. What started to interest me was, first, the fans really wanted it. Boy, did they want it. And they wanted it so much they were willing to put their money where their mouth was. Because the crowdfunding on this, like in such a short time, we were fully funded. The thing about this stock is that when we started to talk to people about their recollections and their stories and what they wanted to say about it, suddenly I went, wow, this is a really fucking cool story. Like, this is, okay, like, this is a story worth telling. And suddenly we had all these cool stories and all these cool ideas and all these different perspectives on what it takes to make a movie. And look, once we had one director on the show initially. We parted ways, which was fine. It was creative differences because he just didn't have a vision for the movie. He just didn't know what the movie was going to be. And when I finally met Michael Felsher, but day one, he had a vision for the movie, like that. And once he told me that vision, I went, oh, Michael, yeah, let's make that movie. And we were off to the races. And between him and a guy named Eric Beatner, who has been my best friend since I was 14 years old, true story. And now he has been nominated for the Emmy 10 times for editing The Amazing Race. He cut every single episode of Fear Factor back in the day. This guy is a badass. Like, he's an amazing editor. He's also a brilliant writer. Eric edited this movie and has now become the editor of Skeleton Crew. Like, he's our in-house editor now. But I got to tell you, like, between those two dudes, they crafted something that is really beautiful. Like, it's a funny movie and it's a very sweet movie. So yeah, I think the stories behind the makings of films can be as compelling, if not more compelling, than the movies that they're talking about.
Right, agreed. And I do have an adjacent Jason Goes to Hell.
Please bring it.
Question for you. So, just to set it up, I guess audiences will, listeners will know. One of the single most popular, candid, just real talk episodes I've ever done. One of my personal favorites is with Stephen Williams. I wanted to ask. I was hoping that you had a similar experience with him, but maybe you didn't. So I just want to
no. Stephen Williams is one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah, I completely love that guy. Are
He's amazing.
there any Stephen Williams set stories? Because he's shared some set stories to where he's not a guy that likes to deal with a lot of bullshit. I would like to see him work with
Oh
Val
yeah.
Kilmer.
Oh, dude. Val would have gotten his ass handed to him. Val would have been terrified of Stephen. By the way, hang on. I will tell you one true story about Val to show you like how nuts. So I got Gary Cole to play the villain in the movie, and it's Gary Cole, who is not just a brilliant actor, but an incredible guy. Like when we were on set, when we would be at lunch, like crew guys would be like, Gary, do Bill Lundeberg. Like, give me some office space. And literally, he would stop right with his tray, pick up his whatever drink he had, and he would literally launch into like 5 minutes of Bill Lundeberg. Just because somebody asked him for it. Because, like, again, he played the hits for the fans, right? He was that guy. So on the last day, on Gary's last day on set with me, he comes up to me. He says, "Hey, is Val going to stay for my coverage?" It's not, and he didn't even say Val. He said, "Is number one going to stay?" And I said, "No, man, he's not going to stay. There's no way. He's not gonna. He said, "Is there some way you can get him to stay?" I said, "Yeah, I can work it out. Yeah, I'll find a way. I'll bring in a third camera. You got it. I'll get him." So here's the scene. It's the end of the movie. It's the villain's big moment, and ironically, Gary Cole was playing the villain to Val's hero. What the fuck is that? And so Gary has this moment. Val plays a Iraq War vet who's lost his leg, and we don't know he's lost his leg until deep into the movie, right? And so at the end of the movie, Gary Cole has knocked Val down off of his leg, and he's got him in the dirt. And Gary Cole's got this long shotgun, but like a one-handed shotgun, right? And he's pressing it to Val. He's got it, in his face. And he's like, giving this whole sort of like, very George W. Bush sort of, villain speech at the end of the movie, right? And Val's cowering on the ground. It's this last moment between them. And so I say, all right, I'll do a master shot, but I'll also do an over and an over. So I'll get a shot of you and I'll get a shot of Val at the same time. So I can keep him there. He says, great. So Gary starts doing this big bad speech at the end of the movie. And first, he steps in and steps with his boots on Val's neck and face, shoving him into the mud. Wasn't directed that way. And then he shoves the barrel of the gun against Val's face, actually into his face. He pressed it so hard that by the end of this performance, when he pulled it off, the two circles were embedded in Val's face. Okay? So he gives this whole fucking fire and brimstone speech, and it is incredible. It was so good, the entire crew, everybody applauded at the end of the piece. It was that good, right? So he pulls the thing off. I go, cut, print it. That's it. Moving on. Gary walks up to me. As he walks by me, he goes, "That was for you, boss." Walks away. I walk over to Val, and I'm helping him get off the ground. And Val goes, "Wow, Adam, that Gary guy." He had never used his name up to that point. He goes, that Gary guy, he's the real deal. What an actor."
You probably would have realized that sooner if you stuck around.
Oh, no shit. Had Val Kilmer but you know what? It was that he beat him up. It's that he actually kind of dealt with him. That's what Val responded to. The rest of my shoot went much easier because I started treating Val that way. Mm. At one point, one of my best friends in the world, a woman named Michelle Allaire. Michelle is one of the leads of Secret Santa as well. She's one of my troupe, and she's been my best friend for 25 years. And so Michelle is in bed with Val. It was one of her first roles. She's in bed with Val. She's completely naked, right? She's on her front, like texting on her phone, right? That's the scene. And he's laying in bed with her, and we're not shooting yet. We're not rolling the camera, nothing, right? She's just there naked. he's there, and I put him I put him there in shorts and a tank top because when he came to my set, he was 20 pounds heavier than when I hired him. So I was like, okay, I can't have this guy naked in the bed. Somebody get him a fucking shirt. So there he is clothed. She's naked. And he starts running his hand along her spine down to her ass crack. And my wife, Deborah, grabs a script, rolls it up, walks over to him, and smacks his hand. And shoves the script in his face and goes, "She's not for you." And he never touched her again. So this is the way you deal with this guy on a constant basis. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
So Stephen Williams on set with Val, Val would have had a tough day. I mean, a tough day for Val. Because you're right, Stephen Williams don't play, man. He doesn't fuck around. I will tell you, one of my favorite things about Stephen, if you want to know a set story that won't fuck up this movie, because we have a lot of good set stories in the movie about Stephen. One of my favorite stories was that Stephen would party so hard every night. I mean, dude, like legendary parties. Like, he would tell me stories that I'd be like, no, yes. I mean, just orgies and drugs and craziness. I mean, it was fucking craziness, man. And this is, the early 90s. Like, people, cocaine was still a party favor on the craft service table on sets. And so Stephen was a madman. He would come to set every day, on time, ready to rock, always good. But we'd have to change lighting. We'd do a setup change, and we'd be in the Voorhees house, right? So we're in the Voorhees house, and I'd be like, Stephen would be like, how long? I'd say, about 20 minutes. He goes, okay. And he would literally bend over from the waist down and put his head on the sacrificial table and fall asleep while we were relighting. He wouldn't leave the set to go to his green. He had a room. He had a dressing room. He wouldn't go. He would literally lean on the thing, fall asleep. 20 minutes later, we'd be reset, and I would go, "Hey, Stephen, we're ready." He would literally go, "Okay, up and cracking."
Oh my God, I believe it.
And he'd be like right into it. I'm like, motherfucker. No, Stephen Williams is, I could only wish, look, I have a short list of actors that I could only wish on every other filmmaker. Like, Stephen Williams is one of those guys, like, if you haven't worked with Stephen Williams, you have missed out on something. You've missed out on an experience with somebody who is incredibly thoughtful, brilliant in his creativity. Like, his choices are incredible. And also a guy who's just a doll and a fucking pro.
Yeah. It's
he exemplifies everything an actor should be.
I can believe the party stories, because just while we're sitting here talking like me and you, when I was talking with him, he smoked a couple blunts and had several beers.
Oh yeah, no, that's the when we came to his house to shoot because I wasn't with them the day that we shot Stephen, but when they went to his house, Ali Rivera Quinones, who's my producing partner on this movie, she came to the house with the whole team and knocked on the door, and no one came. And she knocked on the door, and she just heard from behind the door, "Who is it?" And she's like, "Oh, hi, it's Allie and the production team." And he opens up the door. He goes, and he's standing there, no shirt, holding a beer in one hand and a knife in the other. And he goes, "What do you want?" And she's like, "We're here to interview." And he's like, "Yeah, no, I know. I just wanted to come out." Like, start the day that way. Yeah. But I gotta tell you, like, you ask Allie, like, what do you think of Stephen Williams? Allie's like, no, he's the best. I'm like, oh my god, the guy is so fucking charming. He threatens you with a knife before you walk in his house, and you're like, he's dreamy. Okay, all right, that's Stephen. That is Stephen. Oh, such a good dude.
It's funny because when I was setting up the interview with him, he's very old school, so he's like, call me first. So, we talked on the phone like 2 or 3 times for 30 minutes plus each time before we did the interview. And then when we finally get on camera, he goes, "Justin, I got to be honest with you. I thought you were a brother. I might not have agreed to this."
Dude, I love it. And I love it. He is just so
So a question I always wanted to ask you. Obviously,
Yeah.
with Jason Goes to Hell, you
Yeah.
tease at the ending is famous. The Freddy glove
Sure.
comes up.
Sure.
Uh, that's just something that kids always talk about on the playground. Who wins, Jason, Freddy, or Michael Myers?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So a decade passes and Freddy versus Jason finally happens. Were you ever in that
Yeah.
mix at all?
I was right after Jason Goes to Hell. I was.
Okay.
Um, no, I pitched my version of that movie, which I have to say still think is better than what they made, because it was cleaner. The movie they made, look, the movie they made was very corporate, and it was very much a lot of cooks in the kitchen, which I understand. Like, God bless them. That's the way that works. But I will say, you know, and look, there are people who hate Jason Goes to Hell so much. Adam Marcus doesn't know anything about Friday the 13th. Well, go fuck your mother. I do. I've been around for the whole series. I saw every one of the films in the theater multiple times. Fuck off. Like, I hate when people say stuff like that. It's like, listen, you can have your opinion. Don't make assumptions about me. No. No, you don't know me. Also, by the way, Jason Goes to Hell is canon. Sorry. For anybody who's upset about that, eat a dick. I mean, what are we kidding here? Like, give me a break, man. I love the way people behave about this stuff. Again, your opinion is valid. Have your opinion. That's beautiful. Canon is not opinion. Canon is fact. So facts aren't opinions. So I hate that shit. Anyway, the thing is that when it came down to the directing on Freddy versus Jason, they did pick a guy who famously has flat out said he had never seen a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
He's never seen them. So he didn't give a shit. So when he doesn't cast Kane Hodder, well, no shit he didn't cast Kane Hodder because he didn't give a shit about the movies. He doesn't care. That's a problem. See, this is the thing. Jason Goes to Hell was, whether you like it or you don't like it, was directed by somebody who loves these movies, who is a fan of these films, like a diehard fan. A number of the Friday films, a number of our genre classics or genre sequels are directed by people who don't give a shit about the genre or about the movies they're making a sequel to, who just don't care. Well, that's bullshit. Like, I don't understand people who direct a film to take a job. I don't get it. And look, you can do that. That's every artist's or craftsman's right to do that. That's awesome. But for me, you spend so long making a movie that if you don't love that movie hook, line, and sinker, I don't know what you're doing. Right. I don't get it. You got to put your passion into it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with something that feels really corporate. And I think Freddy vs. Jason feels corporate. That said, look, I went in, Dee Loring went in, like a bunch of us went in for that movie. And we were excited about it. And we were into kind of crafting something really badass and really cool and different. But here's the problem. Wes Craven wanted to make New Nightmare.
Yeah.
He didn't before that. He didn't before. Now he did. The minute he said New Nightmare, that was it. That movie was off the table. And it was going to be off the table until New Nightmare was done. Right? And then they went down this crazy fucking rabbit hole of, 25 screenplays being written. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's Freddy versus Jason. Don't complicate it.
Exactly.
It's a wrestling match. Let it be a wrestling match.
Yes.
My version of it was that I wanted to bring back the top heroes from the other from both franchises, and that it was that basically the two of them are sent back from hell to us, and the person who kills the most of those franchise favorites, the people who survived the movies, the person who kills the most of them is the one who gets to stay here and keep slaughtering. The other one gets sent back to hell forever. And that was the movie I wanted to make. And I was like, and by the way, Stephen Williams was coming back. I was like, Creighton Duke isn't dead.
Oh my God.
This guy's back broken. Creighton Duke is alive and kicking, and let's have him protecting, Nancy, and have Tommy Jarvis riding shotgun. I'm like, I'm sorry, Tom Matthews and Stephen Williams and Heather Langenkamp all in a truck together. fighting Freddy versus Jason. Like, fuck yeah. And here's the fun. Every time Freddy or Jason would get one of them, the other one would stop them from killing them because they don't want them to get the points. They don't want them to get the kill.
Oh,
so
man, I'm getting pissed.
You see what I'm saying? This is the movie I want to make.
Oh, my God, dude.
And by the way, that movie can only come from somebody who wanted all of these movies to be canon for each other. It's why The Evil Dead was so important in my movie. Like, I don't understand. Look, we get pissed off. Filmmakers get pissed off as well, but audiences do. We hate when characters in horror movies act like they've never seen a horror movie. Well, guess what? What if every horror movie happens in a universe that isn't our universe? That horror movies don't exist the way they exist for us. So, other than Scream, because it has to be meta and has to be in this universe. But if you think about it, like, if you don't know that those things are tropes, then you're not an idiot for doing it.
Right.
So that was the concept, was like, let's reset the way people think about horror movies. And what it does is it allows for filmmakers, gives us a lot more latitude to play. So the other thing about Jason Goes to Hell and my version of Freddy versus Jason was the idea of, something happens to all of these franchises, all of them. It happens to every one of them by the third movie. So the first and second movie of most of these franchises are horror movies, and they're terrifying. They are terrifying. You watch the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, holy fuck, that is nightmare fuel. You are terrified for those kids. You are not rooting for Leatherface or the family. Friday the 13th, the original is, it's fine. It's a little boring, let's be honest. But Friday the 13th Part 2 is fucking terrifying, right? And you're not rooting for Jason, you're rooting for Ginny, right? Same with Nightmare on Elm Street. Same with Halloween in a big way. Halloween, nobody's rooting for Michael Myers. You're rooting for Jamie Lee Curtis in those first two films. And they are scary movies. Here's what happens. By the third movie, we start rooting for the villain.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's not a horror movie anymore, kids. Sorry. It's not. It's not. It's a kaiju movie. It's a wrestling picture. You are now cheering for your favorite masked wrestler. And how are they going to kill those stupid teenagers?
Yeah.
How cool is this kill going to be? That's not a horror movie anymore, guys. That's a different kind of film. So nobody ever rooted for the shark in Jaws. It's the best barometer for what a horror movie is, right? It's the best barometer. So you are now in a universe where you are cheering on the villain. I didn't want to make that movie. So when I went to make Jason Goes to Hell, I went, okay, how do I make characters that are really interesting so that when they die, you're upset that they're dead?
Yeah.
And the first thing you got to do is stop making them teenagers. It's too easy to make teenagers disposable. It's just too easy. Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, is the best at showing us teenagers to root for, right? Like, we love those kids. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is amazing in that you've even got really horribly annoying people. Franklin is like the most annoying character ever created for a horror movie, right? Yeah. Like, he's awful, okay? But here's the thing. You care about him. One, he's in a wheelchair, so you care about him. Two, the people in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre look like the people you went to high school with or college with, because they seem way older than they are. But they look like people you know. You know what the problem with the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is? And by the way, I think that's a good movie. I'm not denigrating that film. I think it's a good film. The problem with the movie is that everybody in the fucking car looks like an Abercrombie and Fitch model. You never went to school with anybody who looked like Jessica. No, you didn't. Because there's very few human beings on Earth that look as good as her. Eric Balfour is a fucking handsome dude with a six-pack. You did not know that guy. Stop it. So I think what happens is that the audience feels an inauthenticity with that kind of casting. They also go, I kind of hate those people because they're so goddamn good looking. I kind of hate them a little bit, right? Yeah. Instead of being on their side. For me, casting and character is everything in horror movies. Because if you don't love those people, you don't give a shit if they die. If you don't give a shit that they die, it's not a horror movie anymore. Look, and I got to tell you something. I think all these movies are made for one audience. The horror audience, yes, but we have a lot of divisions inside the horror genre, right? There's a lot of different things that people like. A movie like Terrifier is not made for me. It's not, and I recognize that it's not made for me. Terrifier is not a horror movie. I hate when people call it a horror movie. It's not. Terrifier is a guy that from the very first movie, you're rooting for the clown because you just want to see how bad the kills are going to be. How much more vicious is this one going to be? And by the way, to that, they usually give him characters that are idiots or assholes so that you enjoy when they get killed.
Right.
You're not rooting for that person. You're rooting against that person. So those movies are gore porn. That's okay. That's okay. Like, if that's your bag, fuck yeah, enjoy. Me personally, I'll take the original Texas Chainsaw. I'll take a movie like The Witch.
Yeah.
Where I'm not going to see much. I'm not going to get a lot of gore. That's not what's going to happen. But I'm going to be unnerved. And when I get to the end of the movie and that fucking goat is talking, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Look, when I watch, let's take Hereditary.
Yeah.
Right? Let's take the movie Hereditary, right? And Ari Aster. So Hereditary, to me, the first two acts of Hereditary are two of the best acts ever shot for a horror movie. Like, they're extraordinary. I think the movie shits the bed in the third act for a very specific reason. And again, I love that movie. So I'm not, again, I am saying, from my opinion, my taste level, I think that it takes a route out of the movie that feels inauthentic for the film and then feels like you're just ripping off other people's movies. So Hereditary, first off, the end of Act 1, when Charlie's head comes off and you don't see it. You don't see it. You just hear it.
Yeah. When
Charlie's head comes off, I made a sound. A sound came out of me. This opening night in a packed movie house in LA. I made a noise that my wife was like, I've never heard of. Like, it sounded like a dying animal coming out of you. I yelled a scream so visceral and so like from someplace trapped in my body. That and 3 minutes after that scene, 3 minutes, I was still like this.
Yeah.
And my wife turns to me and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I went, "No, I don't know if I am. Like, I don't know if I'm all right." That's how much it affected me. Like, I fucking loved it. And he made this movie about grief. Like, the scene where the kid goes home and he goes to bed and he doesn't tell anybody. Like, he's so shocked at what happened. And then the shot of mom in the driveway breaking down, like, just fucking destroyed, right? Dude, these are things that will never leave my mind. They're so etched in there because there's such a power to them. And then we get to the end of the movie and it's a cult of naked old people. Ooh, payment. Oh, it was all a setup. Here's your ending. Your ending is mom in the treehouse with the burned corpse of her husband, her dead son, and her daughter's fucking head. And you play everything else out in the movie as though it happened. Everything else. Except the last moment you realize Toni Collette didn't cut her own fucking head off. Toni Collette didn't crawl on the ceiling. That's all in her fucking head. The movie's about grief and what grief does to us and what grief drives us to do. And here's a mother who murdered her whole family over her grief. Okay, that's terrifying. Yeah. That's actually scary. And I go, like, that movie is such a masterpiece. And if they had just replaced that last shot with a moment that tells us you have been with an unreliable narrator who told you what was in her mind, not what actually happened. There's no fucking cult. There's no bullshit. There is a woman who could not deal with her grief and murdered her whole family. For me, that's the movie that I go, oh, that's as good as The Exorcist. The one they made, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. I remember the first time watching Hereditary, just like you, I had the same reactions,
Uh-huh.
and I felt confused at the ending.
Right,
Like as
right.
soon as the cult appears and that whole sequence and the movie ends, it removed me
Yep.
from it a bit. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, this idea that naked old people are the scariest thing you can show. It's like, no, they're not. Stop it. Like, stop. It's weirdly ageist, and it's this body dysmorphia thing, and then you just go, okay, I'm not creeped out by naked old people. I know he must be, but I'm not. And for me, it felt like a naked review, a traveling roadshow of Rosemary's Baby. I'm like, all right, I've seen this done. I've seen it done better. So sorry. And all the crawling on the ceiling, all that shit, that's just Exorcist 3.
Yeah,
So I'm like, bro, you're really cobbling together some shit from other people's movies. And again, I am a guy who I love my references. I wear my references on my sleeve. I love filmmakers who tell me in a movie, these are the people who inspired me. This is why I made this movie. I love that. Like, there's nothing I love more. But there's a point when you go, dude, this isn't homage anymore. This is just ripping somebody off. And you're better than that. Ari Aster's a good filmmaker. He's better than that. And I just go, dude, you made a great film and you just didn't stick the landing. So I love the movie. I watch Hereditary all the time. I think it's a great movie. I just think the ending is. I always put my ending in place of his ending at the end. I always turn it off about 5 minutes before the end. I go, okay, great movie.
yeah, and it's just a movie that where the non-supernatural elements are much more terrifying than the supernatural elements. You know what I mean?
Hundred
Yeah,
percent. Hundred.
yeah,
When that kid smashes his own head into that desk, fuck.
yeah,
Like, that is terrifying. But again, that kid's going through his version of grief.
hmm,
So, tell me a human horror story rather than a magical horror story, and I'm more interested. I'm just going to be more interested.
yeah. So, Adam, what would you say is the best writing advice that you've been given, and who gave it to you?
Well, okay. So there are rules that were at once attributed to William Goldman. I still attribute them to William Goldman. And he had a lot of rules about writing that I actually have on my writing computer downstairs in my office, that I always have in front of me all the time. So I think those are indispensable. I will tell you this. I think whoever said, writing is rewriting, God bless them, because there's this idea that you write something and we're so enamored by the fact that we actually finished it that we just keep patting ourselves in the back rather than saying, great, I got it out. Like, it's out. I got it. Okay, now why does it suck, and what can I do to make this better? And I will tell you, my buddy Eric Beatner, who I talked about earlier, the editor of Hearts of Darkness, on stage. We were on stage for one of the screenings of the movie, and he said something, and it was really, he took me back because he had never said this to me before. But he brought up my movie Secret Santa, and he said, the screenplay of Secret Santa is only 1/4 page longer than the movie made of Secret Santa. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And he said, that's because the person who wrote it knew what worked and what didn't work, what was a movie and what wasn't a movie. And I was like, dude. And he said, just the truth, man. He says, you don't write me fat. You don't write me bullshit. And if a scene's bad, it leaves before it ever gets to camera. If a scene doesn't need to be in the movie, it's gone. And I will say, the more brutal you are about killing your babies in writing, the better. We are writing a script right now for our latest movie we want to shoot the end of the year this year, called How to Survive a Game Night. And it is a comedic thriller. Pretty bloody. It's going to definitely go to Secret Santa places. But I will tell you, this last weekend, my wife, my writing partner, Deborah, and I, we tore that fucking script apart. We tore it apart. We'd gotten to page 80, and I was like, nah, there's big problems. And we went back and just started tearing it all down and then rebuilt it. And it was, 48 hours of writing. So what? I don't care. The cheapest period of time on a movie is when it is just nothing but paper and ink. Costs you nothing, just time. And I think that there's too many people who are racing to get to the finish line rather than getting to the finish line the right way. And I think that's a big part of it. I will also say, I think writing partnerships are amazing because there's always somebody to keep you in check. There's always somebody to say, dude, that's a terrible idea. What are you kidding? And look, my wife and I are very good at being good to each other when we're working. We've learned the rules because we want to stay married. So you find kindness in your criticism, but you still have criticism, and you still check each other. And yeah, there's an authenticity when you're working with another writer. It's just incredibly helpful. I would also recommend that you write with an opposite sex partner. And I don't mean this in any other, you don't have to be married. It doesn't have to be a heterosexual thing, whatever. I think you have to have, if you're writing movies that include men and women, I think it's great to have a man and a woman writing. And I will say, I write women better than my wife, and my wife writes men better than I do. Because we actually fucking listen when the opposite sex speaks.
Yeah, and that's the Stephen King Carrie dynamic. When he threw the story when he threw the script away, his wife.
100%. Yeah. And his wife is a terrific writer. Yeah. So there is somebody at home who reads his shit and tells him this is shit.
Yeah. Even Stephen King.
You have to have that. You bet. You bet. Look, you have to have people in your life that you are willing to take the punches from. Because those punches matter. It makes you stronger. It just does. A boxer doesn't get in the ring not having fought anybody. You spar when you're building your muscle. You spar. And even after that, you keep sparring because you got to take a hit. You got to know how to take the hits as well as give them.
Right.
And everything should have a Rocky analogy. That's just my personal opinion. So.
Well said. So, Adam, I like to end with this question with everyone, just because you never know. Have you ever had an experience that you would consider supernatural or paranormal?
I will tell you the one thing that has happened. My wife's mother died in 1998, which is a big year for me. I made my second feature that year. Deborah and I got married at the end of that year. It was a big year. Her mom passed away, and Deborah had a very difficult relationship with her mother, as most people have difficult relationships with their parents. But I will tell you, my wife, on many occasions, suddenly will smell her mother in this house. And we'll just have this moment of like, oh, Bev is here,
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, my wife is, she, other than her Star Trek nonsense, she is one of the most like practical, rational, feet on the earth kind of people. She's really pretty extraordinary that way. So when she says this, I go, yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Like, all right. I'm not a big paranormal guy. By the way, that doesn't mean that I don't believe in stuff. I do. I just find that, in the same way that people go like, well, if there are aliens, why haven't we seen them? Okay. My response to that is, if there are aliens, which I'm sure there are, they're far smarter than us if they got here. So they know how not to be seen, shithead. So, I think it's only a really dumb alien that gets seen. Only M. Night Shyamalan aliens get seen.
There's got to be one dumb alien out there.
Well, the aliens that come to Earth and they're allergic to water, that's a dumb alien. For fuck's sake. But look, no, I think I like to believe that that anything is possible, and I think that life can be measured in energy, and energy has mass. So I don't think any of us leave this mortal coil entirely, because our mass moves on. And people know when a person dies, the body gets lighter instantaneously. Well, something left.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not talking about somebody that shits themselves. I'm talking about, something happened. And so there is something to that. But I will tell you this. Yeah, my wife really does think her mom has come and spent some time here. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And
Absolutely.
just to put a bow on it, man, what's on the horizon? What's in the pipeline? Anything you want to throw out there without getting in trouble?
Sure. No, not at all. I mean, look, Hearts of Darkness Making the Final Friday is the next thing that's coming out officially. It's coming out through Synapse, through Red Shirt Releasing, which is Michael Felsher's direct releasing company at Synapse, which is amazing. They put out Trick or Treat a few months ago that sold out in 4 days. So we're releasing that in the next few weeks. So that's really exciting. It's also going to be on retro VHS. So that's amazing. I never thought I would ever say that anything I was doing was coming out on VHS again, but it is. What a world we're living in. We are now prepping to shoot How to Survive a Game Night. That will be coming from Skeleton Crew next year. We have 3 other films that are funded that we are going to be shooting next year or starting next year. So we're doing that stuff. And look, what I would say to people, there's going to be some big announcements about Secret Santa coming back out. There's going to be a re-release of Secret Santa. That's exciting. And look, for anybody who has not seen much more of my work than Jason Goes to Hell, what I would tell you is this. If you haven't seen Secret Santa, you don't know who I am as a filmmaker. And Secret Santa is the best time I ever had making a movie, whether writing, directing, or cutting or putting it out there. I love that process of that film, and it says everything about my company, about Skeleton Crew, and about me. And I made the movie for nothing. I mean, really for nothing. And it is one of those movies that we have 3 divisions in the company. One is, our bigger budget division, then we got a TV division, and then we've got our Where the Fuck Did Roger Corman Go division. And that is, you get a bologna sandwich and a ball of twine, but you get to make your movie. And Secret Santa was the guinea pig on that. It was like I was like, I'm happy to put my money where my mouth is. I'll throw myself under that bus first. And it was to prove it can be done. So a movie that was shot in 11 days and 11 nights and 1 day, for less money than you can buy a car for, is probably my favorite film of all the things I've made.
Wow. Just one more thing, Adam. I'm sorry. I just thought of this when you said, you've obviously detailed how you felt about working with Val and what kind of person he was, but
sure.
How do you feel about the final product of the film itself that you did without Conspiracy?
So here's the thing. Conspiracy. Right. Conspiracy. A lot of people love that movie. That movie has actually kind of a nice track record. The movie that they put out was not my cut of the film. So, and a lot of directors say that. I was locked out of my editing room by my producers who were predatory, who were thieves, who got caught with their hands in a cookie jar in a way that is legendary, who recut my movie into a Steven Seagal movie. By the way, these producers made a lot of Steven Seagal movies. So they wanted to turn my thing into another fucking Steven Seagal movie. And that's fine. If that's a movie you like, great. And again, the movie is still, I shot the whole movie. Nobody reshot any of it. It's mine. It's just not the movie I intended it to be.
Yeah.
When people see my cut of the movie, when my actors saw my cut of the movie, I'm not kidding. They wept. And that's not the result of what was put out by Sony. I will also tell you, my brother Kip, who is, a pretty harsh critic. He's a pretty tough guy on movies. He saw the one Sony put out. He bought it immediately and saw it. And he called me up. He says, dude, I don't know what you went through on this, but the movie's great. It's a terrific film. I said, you know what? I'm going to send you my cut. You should look at my cut. He's like, okay. So I sent him the cut. He called me up. He said, those motherfuckers. I said, yep.
Yeah.
He said, Adam, you were trying to make Apocalypse Now, and they were making Under Siege 4.
Oh, man.
Said, yep.
Yeah.
So, look, The movie that's out there is a good movie. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. It's a good movie. And by the way, Val gives a really good performance. Here's what sucks. That's 10% of what he could do.
Yeah.
That's what sucks because he didn't give a shit. He didn't give a shit. He just did. So his 10% is better than most people's 90%.
Yeah.
That's what's so sad. He could have been an Academy Award winning actor if he had stopped being a dick. That's the truth. I also don't think he'd be dead. I think the way he behaved is what got him in trouble. I really do. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe in quantum physics, and I think that guy put negative and negative and negative into the world, and he got negative back. I think that the way we treat each other is how we end up living or not living. And so, look, it's a good little movie. I recommend it to people. Jennifer Esposito is fantastic. Gary Cole is amazing. The rest of my cast is on fire. There's not a bad performance in that movie. I love all the actors in that film. It's just not unlike My Boyfriend's Back. I know what we started with.
Yeah. Understood,
And
man.
That's the only shame. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, Adam,
There you
thank
go.
you so much for giving me some of your time, man. I had a great time chatting with you. Hope I didn't keep you too long or
Dude,
bore you.
it's been a total pleasure. You've been great. And by the way, you're not boring me, but I will tell you this. God bless you for questions that I have not been asked before. And God bless you for focusing on something other than Jason Goes to Hell. Look, they're going to have a whole feature film to watch about what happened. By the way, on that, the feature is great. And it's about 110 minutes. The disc is 4.5 hours.
Oh shit. Okay then.
So the disc is the real deal. And by the way, it's a double disc set, and the stuff, the physical items that are in the disc that nobody knows about yet are insane. I've never seen a release like this. So we're going all out. It's all bells and whistles, man. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, dude, this has been a pleasure. You focused on things. Look, nobody's brought up My Boyfriend's Back to me like that, and I don't know how long. And that's great. Like, again, filmmakers are a culmination of all the things they've done, not just the one thing you know.
Right. I appreciate you, man. And thank you for your work. Looking forward to what's coming next.
I appreciate you, dude.
And we'll talk again.
Thank you. Sounds great. Awesome, Justin.
All right, folks. That's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed that chat with Adam. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you back next time.